Captain David Hill sat in the control room of the Starship Horizon looking out at the endless darkness of space. He felt a mix of excitement and caution as the ship moved closer to the edge of the known galaxy around him. The crew worked quietly, checking instruments and scanning for anything unusual. Anna leaned over a console, her fingers moving quickly. As she monitored the energy readings, Luke stood nearby, adjusting the navigation systems. Claire moved between stations, keeping an eye on communications. Suddenly, the radar picked up a strange signal. It was not like anything they had seen before. It pulsed in a pattern that seemed intelligent. David called the crew together to examine the data. They tried to interpret the signal, Anna suggested. It could be a distress call, while Luke thought it might be a warning from someone else. David decided they needed to approach the source of the signal carefully. They changed course and moved slowly toward a large object visible on the sensors. It was massive and unlike any human ship they had ever built. It had smooth lines and bright lights that shifted and changed in ways that made it look alive. As they got closer, they saw figures moving inside the ship. David squinted at the view screen. The shapes looked like humans, but they were strange in their movements and dress. He could not understand what they were thinking. He ordered the crew to keep their distance and attempt communication. Anna opened the communication channel, sending a simple greeting in multiple languages. Hoping someone would respond, Luke adjusted the signal strength to cover more frequencies. Claire watched closely for any sign of life on the other ship. At first, there was no reply. Then a sudden flash of energy hit the horizon. The ship shook, and alarms rang throughout the control room. David grabbed a railing to keep himself steady. He ordered the crew to activate shields and return fire, if needed. The unknown ship fired again with beams of energy that struck near the horizon, but caused no serious damage. The crew realized that the ship was testing their defenses. It was clear the beings inside were intelligent and cautious. They were not attacking with full force, but they were not friendly either. David called for a meeting with the senior crew. Anna, Luke, and Claire gathered around the table in the strategy room. They discussed the situation and tried to understand what they had found. David spoke calmly. We need to find out who they are and why they are here. We cannot assume they are enemies until we know more. Luke frowned. We should prepare for the worst if they attack us again. We need to be ready to defend ourselves. Claire nodded. I agree, we should keep shields up and have weapons ready, but we also need to try to communicate. We might be able to avoid a fight. David considered their words carefully. He knew the decisions he made now could affect the lives of everyone on board and possibly the future of humans in the galaxy. He ordered the crew to continue scanning the ship and to keep trying to send messages while maintaining a defensive stance. Hours passed and tension grew aboard the Horizon. The crew worked in silence, each one focused on their task. The unknown ship moved slowly. As if observing them, David could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on him. He walked through the corridors, checking on his crew, giving quiet words of encouragement. Suddenly, a small shuttle emerged from the unknown ship. It hovered near the horizon and then landed on a nearby asteroid. David felt a spark of hope. They might want to communicate directly. He ordered a team to prepare for a short mission. Anna, Luke, and Claire volunteered to go. David gave them final instructions: stay alert and keep in contact with the horizon at all times. The team moved carefully toward the shuttle. They saw a human man step out. He looked disoriented and confused. He introduced himself as Ben. He explained that he had been living on this distant world for many years, and that he could help them understand the unknown ship. David listened carefully as Ben spoke. He described Queen Lydia, the leader of the unknown humans, and the rules that governed their world. He explained that they were cautious of outsiders and would attack if they felt threatened. David knew this meant any mistake could lead to war. The team turned to the horizon with Ben and shared the information with the rest of the crew. David realized that humans were facing a challenge unlike any before. The unknown humans were strong, intelligent, and had advanced technology, but they were still human like them, and that gave David hope that they could find a way to communicate and survive. The first encounter had changed everything. The horizon was no longer on a simple mission. The crew understood that they were stepping into a new era of exploration and danger. David looked out at the stars. Thinking about the future, he knew that every decision from this point forward would matter greatly, and that humans must be ready for what was coming. David sat in the command room of the Horizon, listening to Ben as he described the world of the unknown humans. The ship was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Anna and Luke took notes, while Claire watched the view screen closely. Ben explained that Queen Lydia ruled with intelligence and caution, and that her people were very protective of their land. He told them that the unknown humans had been observing Earth for many years, and that they did not trust outsiders easily. David considered this. He realized that even small mistakes could lead to conflict, and he must find a way to gain their trust. The crew began to plan a strategy. They studied the movements of the unknown ship and tried to predict its next actions. Anna suggested sending small probes to gather more information. Luke agreed and added that they should strengthen their defenses before attempting any communication. David nodded. We will approach with caution, but we must be ready if they attack. He said he assigned Claire to lead a team to monitor the unknown humans closely, while Anna and Luke prepared new communication signals. They hoped these signals would show that humans were not a threat as the horizon moved closer to the unknown ship. They noticed changes in its behavior. It was no longer stationary, it moved with purpose, and they could see humans working on its decks. Ben explained that they were repairing and strengthening their ship for defense. David realized that Queen Lydia expected them to be careful and would watch every move. During this time, David and the crew learned more about the culture of the unknown humans. Ben explained that they valued honor, courage, and loyalty. Said that conflicts were often solved by careful negotiation rather than force. But if their leaders felt danger, they would strike immediately. Anna worked with Luke to send signals using patterns they hoped Queen Lydia would understand. She watched the screens as the signals traveled through space. The unknown ship paused its movements as if considering the messages. Claire reported that some humans on the unknown ship seemed curious. They moved closer to the windows and watched the horizon closely. Ben said that curiosity could be a sign that communication was possible, but David reminded everyone to stay cautious. One night, while David walked through the corridors, he spoke quietly with Anna. She said, "Captain, we must be patient. They are watching and waiting for us to make a mistake." He nodded. "I understand we cannot rush, but we also cannot ignore the opportunity to prevent war." Days passed with careful observation and small attempts at communication. Finally, a signal returned. It was not words, but patterns of light and energy that showed intelligence. David felt a spark of hope. They were being noticed and considered the humans on the horizon as beings worthy of communication. Ben helped interpret the signals. He explained that Queen Lydia wanted them to show respect and prove they were not a threat. He said she would respond if she felt humans could follow her rules. David called a meeting with the senior crew. He said, "We have a chance to understand them and avoid conflict. We must be careful and patient. We will continue sending signals and observe their reactions." Anna and Luke worked day and night to create messages that could be understood. The horizon moved slowly around the unknown ship. Keeping a safe distance, Claire led monitoring teams watching every movement and reporting back to David. During this time, small skirmishes occurred as unknown humans tested the horizon. They fired warning shots at safe distances to show they could defend themselves. David used these moments to study their tactics and improve his own crew's readiness. He realized that the unknown humans were not enemies, but cautious defenders of their world. He called a meeting and said, "We are not fighting strangers. We are learning to understand them if we act with wisdom. We can avoid war." The horizon prepared for any attack, while continuing careful communication. Ben stayed close to David, helping interpret signals. He said, "Queen Lydia watches for courage and respect. She will respond if she sees both." Days turned into weeks, and slowly the unknown humans began to respond more openly. Their ship moved in patterns that matched the signals sent by the horizon. David felt relief. They were making progress. Anna and Luke continued their work, sending patterns that showed peace and intelligence. The crew of the horizon grew closer. They shared meals and talked quietly about their hopes for a peaceful outcome. Claire said, "We are writing a new chapter for humans in space." David nodded. "We must be patient and wise. Every action matters." The first contact had shifted from fear to cautious understanding. The unknown humans were still a challenge, but David and his crew felt that with care, they could learn to communicate and avoid unnecessary War the Horizon moved steadily in orbit around the unknown ship, ready for whatever came next, knowing patience and respect were their strongest weapons. Captain David Hill and his crew returned to Earth with Ben after weeks of careful observation and small communication attempts with the unknown humans. The world watched anxiously as the Horizon entered the orbit of Earth Space Command. Prepared new ships and systems for possible conflict, David met with President Elena Roberts and her advisors. He explained everything they had learned about the unknown. Humans and Queen Lydia, he said, they were intelligent, cautious, and very protective of their territory. He added that small mistakes could lead to war. The government ordered the construction of advanced ships equipped with railguns and new defensive systems. David worked closely with engineers and trainers to prepare a crew capable of handling the unknown humans if conflict became unavoidable. During training, Anna, Luke, and Claire led exercises simulating battles. They studied the unknown ship's movements and tactics. They learned how to use railguns effectively and how to defend. Against energy weapons, David emphasized the importance of strategy and caution. Days turned into weeks as the new fleet took shape. David selected a team including Sam, Lisa, and Henry, skilled humans who could handle high-pressure missions. He trained them with careful attention to every detail. He said, "We must be ready for anything, but we must also remember that these are humans like us." David held meetings with the crew discussing both strategy and diplomacy. He said, "Queen Lydia respects courage and intelligence. We must show both if we are to avoid unnecessary war." The crew worked tirelessly, refining communication methods and studying every piece of intelligence. Ben stayed close, helping interpret signals and patterns. Queen Lydia sent emissaries to propose temporary peace talks. David and his crew used this opportunity to gather more information. He sent Anna and Claire to meet the emissaries and observe closely. They learned about the hierarchy and customs of the unknown humans and about their technology. David realized that understanding their culture was as important as military preparation. He said, "We must show respect and intelligence, or we will lose the chance for peace." The crew agreed and worked to create a plan that balanced readiness and diplomacy. At night, David walked through the corridors, checking on the crew. He spoke quietly with Luke. "We are entering a difficult time," he said. "We must be ready for anything." Luke nodded. "I understand, Captain. We must trust our training and our minds." David smiled. "We must also trust each other." During simulations, the crew faced many challenges. They learned to anticipate attacks and defend without provoking unnecessary conflict. They practiced using railguns to disable ships without destroying them and coordinated movements to protect civilians if battles occurred. David encouraged discussions among the crew about ethical decisions. He said, "We must never forget the cost of war. Even if we are ready to fight," the crew reflected on the responsibility of facing other humans in combat situations. They knew mistakes could be deadly. Days later, a warning arrived from the unknown humans. They had detected unusual movements in the outskirts of their territory. David immediately reviewed the situation with Anna, Luke, Claire, and Ben. They decided to send a reconnaissance team to investigate. While keeping the main fleet ready, the team discovered that a group of unknown humans had moved toward a colony without hostile intent. They were investigating, but humans could be misinterpreted as threats. David instructed careful observation and immediate communication. He said, "We cannot allow mistakes to escalate." Ben explained that Queen Lydia was watching every action. Carefully, she would respond favorably to intelligence and caution, but she would strike if she felt danger. He said this was the most critical time to show respect and strategy. David gathered the senior crew and said, "We are learning more about our neighbors. We must balance preparation with diplomacy. Every action matters. Our goal is to protect humans and avoid unnecessary conflict." The fleet continued to train and refine communication methods. They moved in formation and practiced defensive strategies, while sending peaceful signals to the unknown humans. David felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him. He knew the future of humans in this galaxy depended on their choices. Days passed with careful observation and planning. Finally, small gestures from the unknown humans showed curiosity and cautious interest. They moved closer and watched the horizon. David saw hope in this. He said, "Patience and careful action are our strongest tools." The crew continued to work together. They shared stories and supported each other. Anna said, We are not just preparing for war. We are learning to live with others in the galaxy." David nodded and said, "Understanding and respect are stronger than weapons. If we act wisely, we can survive and thrive among humans we have not yet met." The Horizon and the new fleet moved closer to the edge of the unknown humans. Territory Captain David Hill watched the screens carefully. He felt tension in the control room, but also determination. The fleet was ready for any action, yet hoped for peace. A warning arrived that one of the human colonies near the edge was under observation. By unknown humans, David called a meeting with Anna, Luke, Claire, and Ben. They decided to launch a preemptive mission to protect the colony, but avoid direct conflict if possible. Ships moved in formation toward the colony. Luke and Anna led small attack groups ready to disable ships without harming individuals. They used railguns to target systems and shields carefully. David gave orders to prioritize defense over destruction. During the battle, Queen Lydia appeared on her command deck, overseeing the defense of her fleet. She showed strong leadership and skill. Her movements were precise, and her decisions were swift. The unknown humans responded strategically, testing the humans without unnecessary damage. David felt the weight of every decision as ships exchanged fire. The Horizon moved to protect smaller vessels. And to prevent civilian casualties, he communicated with Anna and Luke, giving instructions and listening to their observations. The unknown humans were strong and intelligent. They anticipated many of the human moves yet. The humans surprised them with clever tactics and use of railguns. Their weapons penetrated shields and allowed critical targets to be disabled without total destruction. During one mission, Anna and Luke led a team to disable key systems on enemy ships. They moved carefully, avoiding unnecessary damage. They succeeded in slowing the unknown fleet and allowing human ships to protect the colony. David watched their progress and felt pride in their skill and courage. David knew that the cost of war was high. Even when using careful tactics, he saw injured crew and ships damaged. He reminded everyone to focus on protection and strategy. He said, "We are strong and careful, but we must never forget the cost of each action." During the battle, Ben stayed close, helping interpret unknown human movements and strategies. He warned David about possible traps and advised on the best responses. His guidance helped prevent unnecessary losses and allowed the humans to act wisely. The Horizon faced challenges as civilian ships moved into the battle area. David ordered careful coordination to prevent accidents. He communicated constantly with all captains, ensuring every action minimize risk to humans while maintaining defense against potential threats. Days passed with intense fighting and careful maneuvers. The Horizon and fleet moved in coordination with precision. Every action was calculated to protect humans and learn about unknown human tactics. David observed Queen Lydia and her leadership skills. He realized that both sides shared values of courage and intelligence. During a critical moment, the unknown humans launched a concentrated attack on a vulnerable group of human ships. Anna and Luke led a daring counteraction, disabling enemy fire systems and creating a protective shield for the human vessels. Claire coordinated communication, keeping the fleet informed of movements and responses. David realized that even in war, there was room for understanding. His orders emphasized strategy and intelligence, not destruction. He spoke to the crew, "I know this is dangerous, but every choice we make shapes the future. We fight not just to win, but to survive and to learn." During the fighting, Queen Lydia communicated directly with David through signals. Ben interpreted her message. She warned of further attacks if humans acted without care. David responded with calm signals, showing restraint and careful strategy. He said, "We do not wish to destroy, only to protect and observe." The Horizon moved to engage in defensive positions, using railguns strategically to disable rather than destroy unknown ships. Their careful approach surprised the unknown humans, who had expected full aggression. Instead, they saw intelligence and control. David knew that the outcome of this battle could determine the future of human relations with the unknown humans. He remained focused on minimizing casualties and learning about their strategies. He encouraged the crew to act with courage and precision. Days of engagement continued with both sides testing each other. David and his crew learned more about unknown human tactics and technology. They adjusted their strategies while maintaining focus on protection and careful action. Toward the end of the conflict, a stalemate formed. Neither side could fully defeat the other, yet both had shown skill and strength. David recognized Queen Lydia as a leader of intelligence and courage. He sent signals showing respect and willingness to negotiate. The crew of the Horizon and the fleet took stock of their actions. They had protected the colony, avoided major casualties, and learned valuable lessons. David gathered his senior crew and said, "We have fought carefully and learned much. We must continue to respect intelligence and strategy in the future. Every action matters and every life counts." After days of intense battles, a fragile truce formed between the humans and the unknown humans. Captain David Hill and Queen Lydia communicated directly through secure channels. Ben helped interpret each message. The negotiations were cautious and slow, but both sides wanted to avoid further destruction. David and his crew worked tirelessly to maintain the truce. They continued to observe unknown human movements while sending signals of respect and peace. Anna, Luke, and Claire led teams, monitoring every interaction, ensuring that no mistake could break the agreement. During one meeting, David spoke to Queen Lydia through the communication. "Array," he said, "humans and unknown humans share courage and intelligence. We do not need to fight. We can learn from each other." Ben translated each word carefully, ensuring accuracy. Lydia responded with careful agreement. She said both sides must show patience and understanding. The humans realized that their enemy was not different from them. They had different experiences and technologies, but shared values of loyalty and strategy. David said to his crew, "We are not facing strangers. We are learning about humans who took another path. Our choices now will shape the future." The Horizon returned to Earth with part of the fleet to report progress to President Elena Roberts. The crew explained the lessons learned about the unknown humans, their culture, and technology. The government recognized the importance of diplomacy combined with preparation days. Turned into weeks as humans and unknown humans exchanged information. Slowly and carefully, the Horizon led missions to study distant systems together with the unknown humans. Showing trust and coordination, Anna and Luke worked on mapping systems and sending signals that could be understood by both sides. Claire coordinated communication, ensuring clarity and preventing misunderstandings. David often reflected on the battles and strategies. He realized that intelligence and careful action could be stronger than weapons. He spoke to his crew, "We survived because we used wisdom and courage. We must continue to respect life and learning during one joint mission." A group of unknown humans helped the humans avoid a dangerous asteroid field. David watched the operation and felt hope. He said, "Cooperation is possible when courage and respect guide our actions." The crew felt pride and relief in this progress. Days later, Queen Lydia visited the Horizon in a small delegation. She met the crew and spoke with David. Personally, she said, "Humans have shown skill and respect. We can build a future together." Ben translated the conversation with care. The crew listened attentively and felt the weight of the moment. David led discussions with Anna, Luke, Claire, and Sam about future cooperation. They planned exchanges of technology and strategies. To prepare humans for further exploration without conflict, they discussed how to learn from each other and build trust for the long term. During these discussions, the Horizon crew shared stories of bravery and careful action in battle. They emphasized lessons of observation, patience, and protection. They realized that understanding humans who took another path was more important than winning fights. The fleet returned to the edge of the unknown humans' territory. Together with Queen Lydia and her people, they conducted joint exercises, testing strategy, communication, and coordination. Both sides learned from each other and gained respect for courage and intelligence. David watched the operation and said, "We are stronger when we understand and cooperate." Days passed with continuous learning. Both humans and unknown humans explored new systems and shared discoveries. Anna said, "We are writing a new chapter in human history." David agreed. "We are showing that intelligence and respect can prevent war and allow progress toward the end of the missions." David gathered the senior crew and said, "Our first contact changed everything we learned about courage, intelligence, and the cost of mistakes. We must continue to respect life and be ready for challenges ahead." The crew nodded, understanding the responsibility. The story ended with the Horizon and the fleet moving together with the unknown humans into uncharted space. David looked at the stars and said, "Humans must always be ready to meet others with caution and wisdom. The crew felt hope and pride, knowing they had survived a war no one expected and built a foundation for a future, where even humans could become allies after being strangers.